Alright, 2023 for Legos Island. You know, if I'm gonna be honest, this might be a bit of a smaller year. We'll see how that plays out towards the end of the video, judging by its length. But I'm confident about this, that I feel 2023 might have been a bit of a smaller year. And we're about to find that out right now. Because the last few Legos Island stories, based off of the respective years, have either been over an hour long or over 2 hours long to almost 3 hours long in their length. I'm talking about 2019 through 2022, respectively. So let's hope the same doesn't happen here. And to prevent that, let's officially begin. Kicking off the year is the New Year's party of 2023. It started on January 1st and ended on the 4th. Like all other New Year's parties, the island was decorated with a ton of New Year's decorations, mainly in the color green. I also forgot to mention, this also marked the introduction of Res, which was short for resolution. And would be the first dog of the entire year, ironically on the literal first day of the whole year. So what a coincidence. Like I said, the party had mainly a green theme, because hey, why not at the time? Regardless, a lot of the decorations from Christmas 2022 were still up during this time, but that was as expected. So not the entire island got decorated. A good majority of it did though, but not the entire island. So that's pretty cool. And some decorations that did end up being left up did have a few minor changes to them for this party. For example, in the resort, we can see that these used to be sea lanterns, but now were verdant frog lights. That's just a pure example. And of course, a ton of items were given out as well. With all that said, let's move on to the next event. Speaking of which, I forgot to mention, this wouldn't be an issue a year later in 2024 where a majority of Christmas decorations were still up, because a majority of them were taken down before the New Year's party went live. So, in a year's time, this wouldn't be an issue where a majority of the decorations from Christmas would still be up during this time. I made sure of that. The next event to occur is actually a mini event, and would be the first of many throughout the year. The Food Store 1 year anniversary, taking place on Sunday, January 8th, 2023. This is in celebration of the 1 year anniversary of the food store that was built right behind the potion room inside the waterfall at the campsite. Obviously, there was only one item, the anniversary hat, but as you probably clearly tell, there were cakes all across the food store. Speaking of which, this might be the only anniversary that's being held for this, as I don't plan to do it again. So, with that said, that's pretty cool. There's not much to say about this. There were a ton of colors, and all of them did relate to the food store, like all the respective colors of the said room. So that was a nice little fun fact and coincidence. But regardless, that is pretty freaking cool. There's not much to say about this, so let's move on. The next event to occur on Legos Island in 2023, happening to be the third event of the year, is the Maze 5th anniversary. It started on January 18th and ended on the 25th. This obviously celebrated the 5-year anniversary of the underground maze that we have up under the island. And, of course, we had to go all out for this celebration. So, basically every single decoration inside the maze, such as, of course, the torches right here, all of them were from the previous years, including one extra one to celebrate 5 years. And there was a little callback to the original underground maze event where the pickaxes were there. But, of course, that was only temporary, as a little callback to the event. But as for the actual island itself, it reused the time period, the future time period, from Operation Legos Island 2021, which was January 18th, 2023, ironically. Of course, since we hit that actual day in real time after the Operation Legos Island 2021 finale on March 3rd, 2021, it only made sense to bring the time period back, as now we had actually hit the actual day after the events of the time battle by me and Evil Cluck in the past. Of course, since that took place, the time period was recreated on the exact day that it was being represented on, which was pretty freaking cool. This would also be the last Maze anniversary until 10 years in 2028. Assuming we're still doing this island by then. But regardless, this was a great way to end off the anniversaries for a while. And honestly, I don't think I could have done it any better. Really, basically everything was made out of glowstone in this event. It was so cool seeing this future time period again, but now on the actual day that it's based off of. So that's what made this very special. And with all that being said, there's not much else to say about this outside of course, that. The Maze anniversary will not be returning in 2024, rather it will be returning in a few years for its 10-year anniversary. So do not expect this event to return for a while. The next event to occur on LEGO's Island, which would be the fourth and final event of January, would be HQ Expedition of 2023. It started on January 28th and ended on February 1st. This was originally supposed to start on January 25th. However, unfortunately, I couldn't get it out in time, and not long after that, I got locked out of Minecraft for a good 5 days, not being able to get back in until February 1st, with only randomly, occasionally getting in on the 29th, hence why this actually worked. With all that being said, well, this was a bit different. The goal behind this event was to rebuild the attack board. Actually, scratch that. The entire HQ itself. Yeah, Evil Sheet Leader managed to blow it up, so the main goal was to obviously find, of course, you know, the entirety of the HQ again. In the previous HQ expedition, all of the armor and items were robbed by Evil Cluck. This time, Evil Sheet Leader, I think. Yeah, it was him because I see the black banner. He managed to blow up the whole HQ, which can explain this event. Of course, since it was delayed by a few days, obviously some of these missions were delayed. Oh, and I did get my skin back around this time, but it was only for just this event, unfortunately. The island was still decorated a little bit for this party. Not much, though. Mainly in the places that had the mission. And only the places that had the mission. It was honestly really cool hunting for all the pieces for the HQ, even if it was kind of a pain because of course we had to rebuild the entire room. That was a pain, I'm not gonna lie. I don't think HQ Expedition is gonna be coming back for quite a while, and now that I've already revealed all of the 2024 events, fun fact, this is actually being recorded the day after I announced all of them. But regardless, this event probably is not coming back for a good while. So with all that said, let's move on. Next up, we have another mini-event, the Underground Party Room 4th Anniversary. It was only on February 3rd, 2023. And well, as you could probably tell, had 4 different colors, but also mainly had a red theme as well, if it wasn't already obvious. Scratch that, it had a red and purple theme if it hadn't already made itself obvious, but as you could tell, it had mainly, again, a red and purple theme. Mainly amethyst as well, with the only item given out was obviously the anniversary hat. We're still going to be doing something to celebrate 5 years of the Underground Party Room's existence on LEGO's Island on February 3rd, 2024 for its 5-year anniversary. And then after that, we're done for a while. In fact, a majority of mini-events that I talk about in this video actually are not returning in 2024. And I'll tell you which ones. Actually, I already told you 2 of them already. But regardless, this was a very cool anniversary. The lights in the room were a bit dimmed down, so of course it isn't extremely bright in the room for its anniversary. And honestly, that made it a lot cooler than I intentionally thought it was going to be. There's not much else to say about this event, so with all that said, it was a very cool mini event, and we'll again still do something to celebrate 5 years this February. With all that said, let's move on. The next party to occur on LEGO's Island was the Valentine's Day Party of 2023. It started on February 11th and ended on the 18th. This mainly had a amethyst heart / red rose theme. And honestly, was really cool. So, yeah, and it also brought back the original Valentine's Day colors from 5 years ago at the time. Which is now 6 years ago because that was in 2018. How was 2018 6 years ago? That is really weird to think about. Regardless, this was a very cool Valentine's Day party. And the amethyst hearts looked so cool as well. They were a very neat addition. And most of this party actually was made out of amethyst if it didn't already make itself pretty clear here. Ironically, I don't even know what I'm doing for this year's in 2024, but we'll see. but you can tell this mainly had a lot more of a purple theme, as you could probably take a guess. Not a more light purple theme, because I think in 2021 where we had like a legitimate purple theme, but regardless, you get the idea. There were red roses everywhere, as you could see, and alongside the amethyst hearts, which made it pretty cool. And unlike the previous year, I didn't go absolutely freaking insane, where there was like a majority of Valentine's Day colors spread around the island. Like, there were also the red rose hearts as well, so that wasn't the only thing. But yeah, most of what I did in 2022 was completely gone in this event, where there was one room dedicated to a certain Valentine's Day color. Nope, all of that, you could clearly tell, was gone in this event, because I did not want to do that because of how long it took to make and clean up. Regardless, though, this was still an incredible Valentine's Day party. And who knows what I'll do in 2024? We'll just wait and see, because I don't even know what I'm doing. Actually, it's kind of funny, because this same red rose theme would appear across the Creations world and Zola's Lab 2 respectively. So that's pretty cool. Oh, and yeah, we'll get to all of those on a later time. I think next week I'm doing Zola's Lab events because it'll be like literally 2 days before the anniversary of Zola's Lab in general. So let's move on. Okay, now this next one's actually very interesting. To celebrate the 5-year anniversary of the Tallest Mountain and the Mountain Expedition, we unexpectedly got sent back exactly 5 years into the past to February 21st, 2018 by Evil Sheep Leader. The difference was that there was a 5-year anniversary celebration on the Tallest Mountain when there really shouldn't have. Because we were sent back 5 years, we were able to re-explore the 2018 Mountain Expedition, which was super freaking cool. To escape the past time period, we had to destroy the 5th anniversary celebration on the Tallest Mountain. And we did as follows. Doing this would open a portal sent by the Cool Gate 33 dog, as follows. And we were able to return back to the present, just in time for the Wilderness 4th anniversary, which was actually a mission-based event taking place on Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. Like I said, this was a mission-based event. And while there was an actual 4th anniversary celebration right here on the bridge, correction, there were decorations everywhere, my bad. After getting back to the present, apparently the colors of the beacons were entirely gone due to the cold wilderness. Due to how cold the wilderness was after the events of the Christmas party in 2022. Because the wilderness got so cold, also after the events of Operation Blackout, we had to restore the beacon colors. And this message right here can explain exactly that. It was honestly such a cool mission and really fun way to celebrate 4 years of the wilderness. For 5 years, we're going to be doing Operation Wilderness for the first time in 3 years, so that'll be very fun. And that's all that needs to be said. The next event to occur on Legos Island is the Winter Luau. It started on February 25th and ended on March 4th. This was an entirely new event, and this wasn't even the only place to do this. We also did this in Zola's Lab 2 and LEGO Master 627's Creations, which we, again, will get to on a later day, separately, of course. The island was decorated in a Winter Luau theme, with the Winter Cabin from Legos Island Christmas 2022 going away immediately after the party ended, as the sign literally says, right behind me. Which was pretty cool at the time. Yep, literally right there, as we could clearly see. There were a ton of items also given out, such as, of course, a Frozen-themed medieval banner. So, that was pretty nice. This also celebrated the end of winter 2023 in Legos Island and the start of spring 2023 as well, as a majority of the decorations from the Christmas event would finally also go away after this party. This was honestly a really cool way to end off winter for Legos Island and the official start of spring, which was honestly so cool at the time. I don't know if we're bringing this event back or not to the island. It is coming back to Zola's Lab too, so hey, anything can happen. Oh wait, and even the backyard too. But not here though. That's the winter party. Honestly, there's not much else for me to say about this party. It was a great way to conclude winter here on the island, and a great way to transition into spring. Oh yeah, and that luau sign honestly looked so freaking cool back then. Regardless, that mainly wraps up this entire event. There's not much else to say. This was such a cool event. It was finally the first February in, I want to say, 5 or so years to not be mission-based. Good Lord, finally! The next event on Legos Island is the 5-year anniversary of the event room. It started on March 6th and only lasted the one day. This obviously celebrated the 5-year anniversary of the event room. And in celebration, every single room of the event room at the time was decorated for this party. And it was so cool. Literally, every single room that was connected to the event room was updated in celebration of this party. So, that was really freaking cool. Like the Maze anniversary and Tallest Mountain anniversary, this would be the last one for a few years. So, I decided to go all out because of this. And honestly, it was worth it. The main event room itself also looked freaking amazing. It was mainly a amethyst and white theme, to be specific. Why this? I don't know. I just felt like it at the time. I mean, I had to do something creative. And as in yearly tradition, there was a book. Obviously, of course, celebrating the anniversary of the event room. This was honestly the coolest way to end off the event room anniversaries for a while. Decorating every single free item room and the event room itself, honestly, was probably the coolest thing I could have done for this. And with all that being said, let's move on. Now, here is an anniversary that will be making its final appearance later this year. But the Dog Park 4th anniversary. It started on March 8th. It only lasted, I think, the one day. So, that's pretty cool. Obviously, it celebrated the 4-year anniversary of the dog park, which was really cool at the time. It had 4 colors, making a reference to 4 years. But, regardless, mainly all the colors were dog-themed colors. At least respectively to these dogs, respectively. And, of course, we had candles dedicated to every single dog, which is pretty cool at the time, although I think we've done that in past years, though. But, regardless, this was such a cool little anniversary here. And, of course, now that we have even more dogs than the previous year, yeah, it only got crazier. Speaking of dogs, we're about to reach the next event that actually does feature the next dog. Just what I mentioned real quick, because actually I think that's actually the next event after this one. But my god, this dog park has gotten so big to the fact that I have to put even more decorations in each year. Crazy to think about that, right? Insane. And of course, dogs that were not there the previous year obviously also had decorations, of course, as well. And you may have noticed there's a little construction site for that one, and that's mainly because the next dog would be there not long after this. Speaking of the next event where we do get that, okay, well, maybe the day after this event went live is when we get the next dog. But regardless, the St. Patrick's Day Party of 2023. It started on March 13th and ended on the 18th. As you could probably take a guess, this obviously had a very heavily green theme, with certain elements from previous years taking place, but with entirely new custom banners to feature them, and probably even entirely new shamrocks as well. The island was obviously decorated in a heavily green theme, of course. So, that would have made sense. For pure example, the port was designed like an emerald theme as a reference to the 2020 event. Don't worry though, there was still a ton of gold around the event as well. But, you may notice that there is a bit of a very big shamrock theme. Mainly, a lime shamrock banner theme at the blacksmith shop. Oh yeah, I should mention, this party had a lot of shamrock banners. And a lot of different colored shamrocks. For example, the theme park was a cyan shamrock theme, as we could clearly see. Yeah, I forgot to mention, this was a heavily shamrock-based event, with way too many banners to count. The Pet Cemetery Mountain had a yellow shamrock theme, and the village had a gold shamrock theme. Alongside this party, we had the Pie Day Party, but only in certain rooms, such as the food store and coffee shop respectively, with pie being introduced in this party as well. The next party to occur on Legos Island in 2023 was the Legos Island 6th Anniversary Party. It started on March 25th and ended on April 1st. This was much more heavily downgraded compared to the 5th anniversary, as it was back to a more traditional anniversary party with a slight spring theme in there as well. it mainly went back to a more traditional party like the first and second anniversaries respectively, where there were no past rooms whatsoever, or rooms dedicated to a certain event in a custom design. Nope, all of that was completely gone in this event. It went back to, again, a more classic styled anniversary. And that might be again for the 7th anniversary, I don't know. This party had a light green, dark green, and cyan theme, with a ton of items being spread across the island. And honestly, this worked out so much better in my favor that I downgraded, because ironically, for the first time in over 5 or almost 4 years at the time, I actually managed to get the event video out on the right day for the first time, I think, since 2019. So doing this actually worked in my favor, and let's hope we can accomplish this again 2 years in a row in 2024. Regardless, this was such a cool anniversary party, and downgrading it to like this was honestly for the better, as this did not take as long to do. Overall, this anniversary was amazing, and while there were some small decorations in certain rooms, this actually looked really cool. And it was also the first one to be at daytime in 2 years. So that was pretty cool. Regardless, this was such a fun little anniversary party, with, like I said, a few minor spring elements in there as well, such as the flowery Ozzy bushes, as you could see in the background. And yeah, you could tell this went back to a more classic style because the anniversary hat was back in the spot it normally would be, which proves my point even further. Honestly, all of this looked amazing. And who knows what I'm going to be doing for 7 years. Anyway, with all that being said, oh yeah, I should actually mention, during this event, we did end up hitting 700 subscribers on this channel on March 29th, 2023, where the item was held in the resort, or located in the resort. Regardless, that was pretty freaking cool. Now, we still did have the hotel 5th anniversary out of all of this, on March 27th, 2023. It was mainly to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of the hotel, with it also being the last anniversary for it overall for a bit. With all that being said, mainly the hotel was all decorated. The downstairs, as you would expect. That also includes the roof, but there's not much to say about this, so let's move on. The water park anniversary also took place on March 31st, 2023 for its 4th anniversary. As you would expect, the water park would be decorated for its anniversary, with some anniversary decorations for LEGO's Island's 6th anniversary still being here alongside it. Regardless, this mainly celebrated the 4-year anniversary of the water park. Now, this year is actually going to be rather interesting for 5 years, as it ironically lands on Easter. So, that's going to be interesting. Literally, Easter this year lands on the 5-year anniversary of the water park. That's going to be a lot more interesting than I intentionally thought. We did still do something to celebrate 4 years, though, which is giving out a hat and a few minor decorations around the water park. Regardless, let's move on. And that's it for March, so let's move on to April. The April Fool's Party 2023. It started on April 1st and ended on April 3rd, lasting only 2 days, making this the shortest April Fool's Party in LEGO's Island history. The island was decorated with a ton of jokes as usual, which was pretty cool. And we finally got rid of the old anvil joke that we've had across the island over the last few years, which was pretty freaking cool as that was getting quite old. We then replaced it with a ton of honey and barrels. And don't worry, the portals across the island leading to the Nether with all the other crazy dimensions still made a return as well. And the resort was the first place to implement the barrel joke alongside the honey. This was actually so freaking cool. But that wasn't all. There were a few other weird things that occurred during this party, such as a very poorly designed version of the regular design of the Pet Cemetery building. Yeah, you could tell this was easily a joke because I would do something way better than this. This was a very poorly designed version of the main room of the Pet Cemetery building. That was obviously a joke, as obviously I would never make something this ugly, unless it's for something like this, which in that case is exactly what happened here. But that wasn't even the last joke that we had in this party. The last major joke in this party was the decolorized village. And honestly, this was actually really freaking cool. It mainly took a lot of elements from the 6th anniversary party of LEGO's Island, but mainly decolored them. It also mainly brought back a room from 2018, which also inspired me to make this joke a reality. Anyway, with all that being mainly said, this was actually really cool. And honestly, it was one of the cooler April Fool's parties I think I've ever made. Don't know what I'm doing this year, especially since it's merged with Easter. Let's go! We get to go all out again. No, literally, because April Fool's Day is literally the day after Easter, which is freaking cool. With all that said, there's not much else to say about this party. The jokes were pretty cool. It was finally nice that we did something that isn't anvils for once. And this definitely made up for it. And yes, here is the room that did return from 2018, which inspired me to do the whole decolored joke. The decolored village, to be specific, which is exactly what this is. This was such a cool party. And let's move on. Actually, what's funny is that the blacksmith shop actually turned into a box store where the box armor was available. Now let's move on. I forgot to mention that. It's funny I kept mentioning Easter because that's actually the next event. The Easter Party 2023. It started on April 7th and ended on the 10th. This obviously went for the entirety of Easter weekend and also lasted at the exact same time as the backyard one. The island was decorated in a heavily Easter theme, and this was the first standalone Easter event since 2020. Because of this, I was able to go all out with the Easter decorations, now that it wasn't combined with anything. But now that I have to again this year, because April Fool's Day and Easter are literally one day apart, I won't be able to do that this time. God dang it. But hey, this year at least I got to do something for 2023, which honestly was super cool. It also had a heavily cross theme as well, to obviously represent the true meaning of Easter. Because of course, why did it take me this long to finally admit that? I knew the true meaning of Easter this entire time prior to all of this. For actually over a decade, ironically. But it took me this long to implement the true meaning of it into this event, which made it even cooler! Of course, there were a ton of pastel colors as well. We wouldn't want to forget about that. Heck, there was even banners based off of the cross to make it even cooler. Proof that I wasn't actually joking about that. There you go. But that's not all. There was still an Easter egg hunt held on Sunday, April 9th to celebrate Easter. And on this very day, the dog Easter was introduced during this to make it even cooler. So, that was pretty cool. Oh yeah! The Easter egg hunt was handled heavily different this time, as it was mainly dragon eggs rather than, the spawn eggs. So that was another major difference. Not only was the dog Easter introduced, but also the Easter egg hunt was handled a bit differently, which was freaking cool. And that's it. Let's move on. After not doing an event for it in 2022, which we later made up in Operation Legos Island 2022, the Blacksmith Shop 5th anniversary. It started on April 14th and only lasted the one day. This obviously celebrated the 5-year anniversary of the Blacksmith Shop, and to make up for not doing it the previous year, I went a little more insane. Because of course we needed to make up 1 year for not doing it. Regardless, this was such a cool anniversary. Much like the event room anniversary, it had a very heavily amethyst theme, with some minor gold and iron in there as well. And honestly, it looked really cool. And even the inside looked pretty cool. Oh yeah, there was raw copper right there. So hey, a ton of different colors. Actually, there were 5 different colors in this party. Amethyst, iron, gold, copper, and I think deep slate. Yeah, that was deep slate. Okay, that was pretty cool. This was such a cool way to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of the Blacksmith Shop, and it being the last one for a while as well, also made up for it. And to also make up for obviously not doing it the previous year. With all that said, obviously, this will not be returning in 2024. Let's move on. The next party to occur on Legos Island in 2023 is the Earth Day Party of 2023. It started on April 21st and ended on the 24th. Obviously, the island was decorated in an Earth Day theme, with a few gardens spread across the island as well, much like previous Earth Day parties. And there were a few semi-different Earth Day decorations, as there were actual, different respective colors. The colors may have stayed the same, but they did look a bit different. There was even a few new themes in this party, such as a tree theme here as well, like a spruce tree theme here acting like a little mini wilderness. It is mainly considered a pine tree area, which is pretty cool. I got a little creative with this party, even if it was only 3 days. Not even half the island was updated for this, which also can explain why I filmed it at the time that I was as well. Regardless, this was such a cool party. There was a lot into this. And a lot of trees too. A lot of trees. Yeah, if it didn't already make itself pretty clear here. And that was a lot of trees. Oh yeah, and there was a lily pad area, as a reference to the 2020 event, but now fully realized and took into full use. So that was pretty cool. And yeah, since the frogs weren't there the year prior, they're actually there now. Now, of course, we did have a recycle hunt on April 22nd to celebrate Earth Day. We also did get the dog Earth in this party in celebration. And that's it. After coming in second place in the 2022 surprise party vote, the Celebration of Spring did eventually make its debut to LEGO's Island in 2023, as I did promise it would occur after, due to it not winning. With all that said, the Celebration of Spring 2023. It started on April 24th and ended on the 29th. This party celebrated, obviously, spring. Each room was dedicated to a specific flower. For example, the village was dedicated to, of course, I think those are the, Oxy Daisies or something? Correct me if I'm wrong. And the lodge was dedicated to the sunflowers, which was all super cool. Those are just a few pure examples. Speaking of which, this had the most items dedicated to a single holiday-themed event. Sorry, a single seasonal-themed event. That isn't, of course, LEGO's Island Summer. And yes, we'll get to that later. Basically, almost the entire island was decorated for this party. Good frickin' lord! We went nuts for this event. But honestly, it was worth it. This was so cool. Yeah, basically the entire island was updated for this party. Because of how many items were given out in this party, there were at least 4 to 5 items per day that were given out. Because of the sheer amount of items that were given out, because of all the flowers we had across the island. And a few other items that weren't flowers. Which is pretty freaking cool. With all of that being said, this was a really cool party and a great way to do it after it not winning the vote the year prior. And that wouldn't be the only one to come back after not winning the vote. We'll get to it later. Speaking of which, that's it for April. Let's move on to May. We're only 32 minutes in and we're finally into May. The next event to occur on LEGO's Island is the Fair 2023. It started on May 5th and ended on the 15th. This was the first standalone fair in LEGO's Island history, as it was finally outside of the theme park anniversary, and we'll get to that later too. The island had a ton of fair games around it, such as, of course, obviously axe throwing, a freaking circus tent in the resort. Good lord, there were shows every few days of this party here in the circus tent. That was insane. We had a ring the bell game where you had to run from far away and make it up to the top to ring the bell in only a few seconds. Maybe 20 to 30 seconds, I forgot. In the same area, we also had a hit the target game as well. That fair logo is also amazing, by the way. We also had a sword duel game in the port, which was pretty freaking cool. Really, that was pretty cool. Yep, the sword fight game. Oh, and we did have a few roller coasters in the village as well. Maybe a little too many. But hey, it was worth it. We had an amethyst and I think even a redstone one as well, which was very cool, as some of them did end up going into certain buildings. Yeah, see, redstone and amethyst roller coasters. I don't think it could get any better than this. And the village actually reused colors from previous theme park anniversary parties as well, which is pretty cool. With all that said, we're actually not done. On May 8th, 2023, we had another fair game implemented. This being a full-on trampoline park where you would collect tickets via trampolines by jumping off a very high distance, which was actually pretty cool. On May 10th, 2023, 2 more games were implemented, such as Cornhole and a bowling game, all at the Buffalo House in its backyard respectively. This was so cool. But if you thought that was cool, in celebration of the 5-year anniversary of the Underwater Room and Underwater Expedition as a whole, we made a underwater roller coaster celebrating its anniversary, which harkens back to the original Underwater Expedition from 5 years prior, as the original machine made a return during this party, but only for the purpose of this roller coaster, and this fair overall, which was so cool. Next up, we have another mini event, the Minecraft 14th Anniversary Party. It started on, well, actually, May 18th. It actually ended up being the day after the actual anniversary of Minecraft. This shouldn't be a problem this year, though, as this year's 15 years, and I feel like I can get it out on the right day. I didn't do this last year because, well, I kind of forgot about it, if I'm being quite honest. So I did it the day after on the 18th just to prove I didn't forget, even though it was the day after the anniversary. Regardless, this anniversary party was rather small, and actually a lot smaller compared to the last one. There were not that many rooms dedicated to this compared to the previous party, but there were definitely still a few. And it mainly had a red theme for some reason. I don't know, I just felt like it for some freaking reason. Don't know what color scheme I'm going to go for this year. Especially now it's going to be 15 years. Regardless, still glad that we did this anniversary anyway, despite it being a day late. Also, I hope I can still get that freaking skin back. Regardless, nice little mini event, even though it was a day late. This shouldn't be an issue again this year, as I actually will remember this time. With all that said, let's move on. It's that time of the year. Operation Legos Island 2023. It started on May 23rd and ended on May 30th. Of course, as in tradition, it is a yearly event where we go back in time to certain time periods across Legos Island history. But for the second time in a row, it is a completely different villain. That being Evil Sheet Leader. Like the last Operation Legos Island, purposely we had to fix certain time periods by, of course, getting rid of the merged time periods. So very similar to the previous year, if not almost the exact same thing as the previous year. The following time periods we went to include September 15th, 2020 on May 23rd. On May 24th, we went to February 11th, 2021. Oh yeah! I forgot to mention, there is actually one key difference. During this party, we had to save past versions of Evil Cluck that got stuck in the wrong time periods, thanks to Evil Sheet Leader. So that's the one difference. And we did that by, of course, resetting all of these time periods after they got merged with others. So that's the one key difference. There we go. Glad I found that clip, because otherwise I would not have mentioned that. Thank God. On May 25th, we went to March 6th, 2019. On May 26th, we went to September 8th, 2020. On May 27th, we went to November 18th, 2021, which was honestly really cool. What's funny is that I actually got very close to being caught by my past self again during this exact episode. So we left just in time for them to arrive, which, man, that was a close one. We almost repeated history from Operation Legos Island 2022. Woo, that was a close one. In celebration of the 5-year anniversary of the first ever Memorial Day party, we ended up going to May 28th of 2018 on May 28th, 2023 to celebrate that respective anniversary, which also ended up being on the 4-year anniversary of the Cave of Adventures. And lastly but not least, to celebrate Memorial Day overall on May 29th, 2023, we went to May 29th, 2028. Exactly 5 years after this said day. We took down Evil Sheet Leader. Actually, fun fact, this was actually a past version of him, I think from 2019. So we had a major advantage when going up against him. I forgot to mention that. Oh, and to prove we actually outsmarted this guy, I did this. Because of all the major advantages I got because I'm 4 years ahead of him. Again, we should probably not be here that long. Really? You keep saying that. Prove it then. Oh, you really want to go there then? Okay. I'll prove to you I'm not actually joking. Does this answer your question? Frick, I don't have armor. Yeah, that's what I thought. You want to say that again, bud? Frick. Let the war begin. Yeah, we took him down rather quickly. And Memorial Day 2023 was saved alongside both the 2023 Memorial Sheep and 2028 Memorial Sheep. But as a simple reward, it was also ironically the 800th episode of the entire Legos Island series, the day that this episode went live. Speaking of which, this was the first ever Operation Legos Island to have basically every single Operation Legos Island episode except for the first and last one to all go up on the right day. That's right, we actually accomplished something for once. And the same would be said for Operation Zolzad 2023 Part 2 later in the year, but that's its own video. But yes, it was ironically also the 800th episode alongside Memorial Day, the same day of this episode. And because this was hit on Memorial Day, this milestone was handled a bit differently, as it was mainly Memorial Day themed item to celebrate the occasion. And the armor was designed like an American flag. This was honestly really cool, and a nice way to celebrate a milestone a bit differently. And also Memorial Day too. For the Memorial Day party this year, we're probably gonna just go back to a traditional party, since there will be no other events going on alongside it. With all that said, let's move on to the next event. And actually, as of recording this Saturday Stories, we are exactly 1 month away until the 2024 Operation Legos Island. What a freaking coincidence! Because it starts February 6th, and today is January 6th, the day I'm recording this Saturday Story. Let's move on. Just the day after the events of Memorial Day, the 800th episode, and the Operation Legos Island 2023 finale, is the Lodge 5th anniversary. It started on May 30th and only lasted the 1 day. In celebration, the entire lodge was decorated for its 5th anniversary, with once again, like the event room anniversary, having a very purple theme. Because again, why the frick not? I know, we've been seeing a lot of purple themed anniversaries lately in this video. But regardless, with it being the last lodge anniversary for a while, like the others, I wanted to go all out. Around this time, we were also preparing for Legos Island Summer 2023. Speaking of which, Legos Island Summer 2023. Thankfully this year, we are back to a more lighthearted, peaceful summer theme, with no missions interfering, as we would have just had Operation Legos Island. It started on June 1st, and actually ended on September 1st this time. Yep, this year around, I was actually home this time for the ending of the event. So it actually ended on September 1st this time, unlike the last one. And we'll be sure to do so once again in 2024. This time around, the island was designed like a summer luau theme. Well, some of it, because some rooms were updated later on to implement 1.20 feature. In fact, that was actually one of the main objectives of this party, the 1.20 update. There was a lot of stuff that actually went into it, so obviously I dedicated the majority of the summer to doing that like once again. And yes, it, like I said, did end on the right day this time, which is good. But yeah, you may know there's already a slight room difference here. This honestly looked really pretty, including the Cherry Grove theme. My god, the wilderness looked pretty. Now, not every single room was based off of 1.20, but a majority of them did. This Legos Island Summer also marked the 5-year anniversary of the event overall, so 5 past rooms were brought back to celebrate the occasion. For example, the Pet Cemetery Mountain was the design from Legos Island Summer 2019, and so was the building itself. The village was designed like its 2018 design from Legos Island Summer 2018. The first ever Legos Island Summer, to be specific. So that was pretty cool. Actually, if I remember correctly, this might have actually been suggested by CoolGuy33 a long while back before this. You might want to correct me in the comments though. But why do I feel like I actually remember that being a thing? I'm probably wrong. Do correct me, CoolGuy33, if you're watching this, because I'd love to be corrected if I'm wrong. Now, the summer luau design wasn't officially killed off entirely, because this also appeared in the lodge as well. The medieval park reused the Legos Island Summer 2020 design. The only difference is that the slide wasn't there. Or at least not till later on. Oh, and this was actually the first Legos Island Summer since their introduction of the Buffalo House and Ranch respectively, to not actually use these rooms in Legos Island Summer. This was due to the fact that the New York to 2023 never actually happened. It was instead replaced by a recreated version of the place we stayed at for the Florida vacation, which replaced the New York to 2023 respectively, because it did not end up happening that year. So this was its replacement. Oh yeah, and a banner was specifically made for the anniversary of Legos Island Summer. Although I feel like it was placed in the wrong area though. Yeah, I later regretted that. And because of this, the dog park was not designed like the neighborhood because of this. It instead had a luau design. The resort had its design from Legos Island Summer 2021 World Tour, which was the Jamaica design from that event respectively, because it was honestly one of my personal favorites in the World Tour. This was in 2021, by the way, that this design came from, if I didn't mention the year. Unfortunately, there was no design from 2022 because I couldn't think of one that looked interesting enough. So that was the only one that ended up not happening, unfortunately. I just couldn't think of a design that looked good enough to bring back. So only 4 LEGO's Island Summer designs came back. Oh well, there was supposed to be a design from 2022, but again, I couldn't think of a good one to bring back, so that can explain why. But if you thought this event couldn't have gotten any more crazier, there was a Luo design down here, as you could tell. But on the top of the mountain was a Christmas into July design, which completely changed everything. This was on July 25th, which was also ironically my YouTube anniversary. This was the first time we ever did something like this. This was actually very unexpected, but hey, why not? Remember how I said in the Backyard Events 2023 story that I did do something similar for Christmas to July in LEGO's Island? Yep, you're welcome. This is exactly what I did. Even if it was very unexpected. And it was originally only going to be there for 1 day, but the design felt so cool that we kept it up till the end of the event. You're welcome, by Coolguy33, because he suggested I keep it up until the event was over. And I couldn't blame him. Like usual, at the end of every single LEGO's Island Summer, we obviously go on a scavenger hunt collecting a ton of items from throughout the event. But this time I think we had less items. Mainly because it ended on the day it was supposed to this time. And there wasn't a mega storyline this time, so that can explain too. And the video for it was 30 minutes shorter than the previous one, to prove that too. This was honestly a very fun LEGO's Island Summer. But of course, you can't have LEGO's Island Summer without a 4th of July party. Which only lasted, I think, the 1 day. Which was pretty interesting. So, as usual, the island was decorated with 4th of July decorations, and I'm pretty sure we went back to a more traditional 4th of July party this time around with maybe just a few small custom elements. It took place at night, much like the 2019 one did. Because why not? Basically, everything from the previous 4th of July party was basically gone. It was back to a more traditional one, outside of right here with the balcony where we had the colors from the previous year. But outside of that, everything else was basically back to a more traditional party. Which, honestly, was probably for the better. There's not much to say about this. It's just a good thing that a majority of the island was still decorated, but not as much as the previous year. No, this was heavily downgraded compared to the previous. With all of that being said, now that we're done with the summer, let's move on to September. Because LEGO's Island Summer ended on time this time, unlike last time, we were actually able to celebrate the anniversary of the flag store. As the first anniversary, I was on my way home from New York at the time and did not have access to my computer, also meaning that LEGO's Island Summer stayed up longer than usual. Because of this, we were now able to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of this flag store, which only lasted for 1 day, September 3rd. The colors were mainly brown and actually technically tan and gold, respectively, or just tan and yellow, respectively. I don't know, I just felt they looked cool. Mainly this was just to celebrate 2 years of the flag store, which, if you don't remember, the flags are from LEGO's Island Summer 2021, from the World Tour theme. So, that's mainly it. I don't really have much to say about this. It was nice that we actually celebrated it this time, and I don't think we're doing it this year because we're going to have Labor Day literally the day beforehand. Speaking of which, after 2 years, the Labor Day party was back. It started on September 4th and only lasted the 1 day. Because LEGO's Island Summer 2022 ended late the previous year, the Labor Day party wasn't held, as the day I was cleaning it up was Labor Day itself, meaning the event wasn't held. But the original colors that I was planning to do for that party a year back were later used in 2023 because the event ended on time. With all that being said, the island was decorated in a pretty cool party theme, with a ton of colors implemented, which was honestly so cool and was a great way to legitimately wrap up the summer. Honestly, this has to be one of my personal favorite Labor Day parties if I'm being quite honest. Like, I'm not kidding, this might actually be my personal favorite. I honestly did way more than I needed to for this party. And the fact that it was only a 1-day event, and I went this insane, really shows that I think this is probably my greatest one yet. There were a few dance floors across the island, and a few gardens for some frickin' reason. Oh, maybe that's meant to reference the labor part. Yeah, that would make sense. I think I even mentioned it in this video. Regardless, this was one of the coolest Labor Day parties I ever did. While not the entire island was decorated, it didn't need to because it was only 1 day. Like I said, I think you can probably see why this is my personal favorite Labor Day party. I did a lot of stuff that I normally would not do, which is go to this extent. but I did. Because I'm just that good. Regardless, the colors were yellow, tan, orange, and pink. Why those colors? I don't know. I just felt like it for some stupid reason. The original colors for the 2022 event were just yellow and orange. You may notice I took that into consideration a year later because the event never happened the year prior. So, you can tell we did exactly that. With all that being said, there were a few items given out, which were very, very cool. And, well, with that said, let's move on. When you realize there was an event every day for 3 days straight, 3 days straight worth of mini events. The Barn 3rd Anniversary. It started on September 5th and only lasted the 1 day. We obviously could not celebrate 2 years the year prior because of LEGO's Island Summer ending late. So we did this instead, a year later. There's not much to say about this. The barn was decorated with a few cakes and number 3 made out of hay. There's not much to say here as, well, there wasn't really much that actually happened here. So, to be quite honest, I think that's already it. And there wasn't even any decorations on the outside, so that also proves something. I think in the first anniversary there was, but not here. So, let's move on. The next event to occur on LEGO's Island was the theme park 5th Anniversary. It started on September 15th and ended on the 25th. This was the first standalone theme park anniversary, and would also be the last one at that for a few years. The island was decorated in a very colorful theme. Not to mention, there were custom rooms based off of each previous theme park anniversary. And maybe a roller coaster alongside it, as we can clearly see. The lodge had a custom design based off of the 3rd anniversary of the theme park from 2021. None of these are past rooms. These are all just custom designs based off of these respective colors. And this definitely shows. The barn had a decoration, or at least some decorations, based off of the 1st anniversary of the theme park in 2019. The port had decorations for the colors based off of the original theme park grand opening in 2018. Yeah, you could tell this was a very colorful party. The blacksmith shop had a custom design based off of the 2nd anniversary of the theme park in 2020, with yet another roller coaster. There were roller coasters all across the island if it wasn't clearly told. And actually, the way you could unlock the roller coasters were finding the respective amount of tickets that were claimed in the original anniversary party years back for their respective year. Therefore, you can unlock the roller coaster for that said anniversary based off of that design, which was honestly super freaking interesting and pretty cool. Now that we didn't have, of course, the limits of the fair, we could do anything here. Oh yeah, it was evening during this party. I should mention because of the sky. Oh, and yes, there was something for the 4th anniversary. There was like a whole roller coaster and stuff, which can explain the path right here as well. Which was ironically the exact same area of a LEGO's Island Summer water slide, which, actually, ironically, I think there were still some water slides in LEGO's Island Summer, but actually, I don't remember if there were or not now that I think about it. Now, don't worry, there were still colors based off of the actual 5th anniversary of the theme park as well, such as some banners and some pretty cool decorations as well. And, of course, another set of custom armor. Actually, 2 custom armors, like all the others. And yes, this design right here proves exactly that. The village mainly combined every single anniversary color for the theme park up until this point, which was honestly so freaking cool. All of these were custom designs based off of these respective colors, so we had 2 each for each respective anniversary. This was honestly so cool, and honestly a really cool way to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of the theme park, and with it being the last one for a while, this was honestly the greatest way to wrap it all up. Speaking of wrapping it all up, that's it for this event. Let's move on. A few days before the theme park anniversary came to a close, we had a fall mini event. It started on September 23rd, and I think was originally supposed to end on September 25th, but I extended it a few days because I felt like it was too short. I think it ended the 27th, I think. Most of the island that was not decorated for the theme park anniversary was designed in a fall theme, which was honestly really freaking cool. Honestly, this is probably the most I have ever done for a fall event like this, actually. And it shows. On September 25th, 2023, the day the theme park anniversary came to a close, the event actually got a little bigger, and when I also decided to extend it, adding more rooms such as the tallest mountain, and the balcony to name a few. Oh, and the lodge too, because why not? This actually looked really cool. Like I said, the event ended on the 27th, I think. It was also still evening during this time, by the way, because I felt like keeping it in there for the event. After that, it returned to daytime. A day later, on September 26, 2023, we celebrated the 4-year anniversary of the Medieval Kingdom, which only lasted for the one day. With all that being said, this mainly pretty much had the exact same color scheme as the theme park anniversary. At least the same colors, respectively, if it wasn't already pretty clear by the whole runner thing that you see around here. Majority of the kingdom was decorated like usual, with number 4s made out of cakes. Even the castle looked pretty interesting. Like, it really did. This was really interesting. Even on the inside, too. Holy frick, I forgot how insane I went with this. Regardless, there's not much to say about this mini-event outside of the fact that, of course, we're going to still do something to celebrate 5 years of the Medieval Kingdom this September with another medieval party. With all that said, let's move on. The next event to occur on LEGO's Island was the Festival of Lights 2023. It started on October 6th and ended on the 13th. This was honestly a whole lot better than the previous Festival of Lights, as I did a lot more insane things than the previous. And while some places weren't decorated compared to the previous year, I made up for it by decorating places that weren't decorated the year prior. This honestly had to be one of the more creative Festival of Lights I had ever done. For example, the tallest mountain here had HQ colors as the beacon. Literally the colors of the HQ. This was also the introduction of the beacons at the Buffalo House, as you can see back there. Outside of that, the rest of the island was mainly decorated with a ton more lights. And some of these actually call back to previous events. For example, the only one not to is this one right here, which was based off of the Club Penguin Journey color vote in September 2023. I even say it in the video itself right here. Another pure example can be the path seen at the port, which was a callback to Operation LEGO's Island 2022's future time period. Another can be seen with the original entranceway to my cave that was there in the very early days of the island, within the first month or two. Another can be seen right here at the blacksmith shop, which was a callback to both the milk chocolate armor and the dark chocolate armor from LEGO's Island Christmas 2018 for the milk chocolate armor and the dark chocolate armor in LEGO's Island Christmas 2019. At the resort, it represented the first anniversary colors for that place overall in October 2019, as we could clearly see right here. And the ones at the Buffalo House referenced Easter 2022 and 2023 respectively. The ones at the village referenced all the previous anniversary parties up to this point, being the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th anniversaries of LEGO's Island respectively. Oh yeah, speaking of the clothes shop, the 5th anniversary of the clothes shop. It started on October 10th, and I think lasted 2 days, ending on the 12th, I think. Or it could have only lasted the 1 day, I kind of forgot. Regardless, this was mainly all done in blue, with a slight futuristic feel to it, which was pretty cool as well. There was more than just a banner and hat given out, there was also a shirt, as we could see right there. And honestly, this was actually really freaking cool, I'm not gonna lie. Yep, see, there was a shirt right there, as you can see. A yearbook was also seen as usual. With it being the last close shop anniversary for a while, I think I did a really good job to wrap it all up. Mainly with it being an almost all blue theme, despite basically the entire building, being made out of blue. Regardless, this was actually really freaking cool. And with that said, next event. The day after the Festival of Lights ended was the base 5th anniversary. It started on October 14th and only lasted the 1 day. There were already some slight Halloween themed elements to this anniversary, as you could clearly see, with very similar elements to the close shop anniversary applying as well, with a majority of it being out of blue as well. And it definitely shows, because as you can see, yeah, there's blue freaking everywhere. Okay, a majority of the base was already made out of blue to begin with, so that's not a surprise. And you can also see it was already being preparated for Halloween. Also, this also debuted the fact that these were no longer purple right here. They were now being changed to blue/green. Nice way to celebrate the 5th anniversary. But yeah, that's really it for this event. There's not much to say about it outside of, well, we could find the respective candles for the anniversary, which was pretty cool. But genuinely outside of that, there's not much else to say here. It was just very similar to the close shop anniversary, and a great way to conclude these events for a while. So yeah. With that said, let's move on. But this is where things start getting a little insane. You see, the Halloween party this year was a bit different. The day after the base anniversary, the base started getting haunted. This was on October 15th. And there's only one person to blame for this. Evil Cluck. The dog park also got affected on October 19th, which was pretty insane. we were in for something a lot more intense this time around. The island was starting to get haunted, and more of this was proven to be true on October 23rd, 2023, as my cave also got affected. This was just 2 days before the event went live. And speaking of the event itself, Legos Island Halloween 2023. It started on October 25th and ended on November 3rd, with an original end date of November 1st, but I later changed it because I was pretty busy that day of November 1st. And honestly, changing it to November 3rd made a lot of sense as I was able to clean up the event a lot easier on that day. This was Evil Cluck's Haunted Island. Because of this, the island was transformed into a creepy haunted island, with a ton of spooky trees everywhere and a ton of other weird elements that were dedicated to Evil Cluck. This was actually really interesting, as we finally get to see what an island would look like under Evil Cluck's control, but in a more spooky theme. Which is kind of ironic, because that's one of Evil Cluck's favorite events, is Legos Island Halloween. So this was the perfect time for him to take over. And yes, what we did see earlier with the base ended up being actually legit. This was actually really freaking interesting, but it only got more insane from here. To be able to celebrate the 5th anniversary of the resort on October 27th, we needed to go through Evil Cluck's Haunted Mansion and get a costume of him for the security of the resort to recognize that it was Evil Cluck, and not me. The costume somehow managed to work, as we did end up getting in there, and overall celebrating the anniversary as a whole. The Haunted Mansion was pretty tough, I'm not gonna lie. There were traps everywhere. And on October 29th, it only got even more insane, as we had to go through the entire haunted theme park with the warden chasing us down, and barely being able to see literally anything. So, that was definitely something. Finally, but not least, on Halloween itself, we went through Evil Cluck's Haunted Hotel, having to traverse the entirety of the hotel just to get him and save Jack-o'-lantern and River respectively to disable the haunted island. On our quest, we eventually got a Master Evil Oinkers themed costume for some reason. I don't know why that was legit, but maybe I guess he wanted the costumes of both of them, I guess. And it ended up being legit, because we managed to make it up to him, even though we did die a lot of times. We were able to defeat Evil Cluck, though, by getting him off of the building, and respectively getting him out of this island once and for all. This was actually really freaking cool, and even though I missed a few times, I managed to get it eventually. With that finally over with, Legos Island Halloween 2023 is done, and we can move on. The next event to occur on Legos Island is Camp Island 2023, to celebrate the 5-year anniversary of the campsite. It started on November 10th and ended on the 15th. This obviously celebrated the 5-year anniversary of Camp Island and the campsite overall, with custom designs based off of each previous anniversary party. Obviously all designs were custom, but used the colors of the previous anniversary parties. This was very similar to the theme park anniversary in September. So that's pretty cool. Also like that party, it was an evening event, to also send off Camp Island for a while as well, as this would be the last one for a good while. Yeah, remember how I said there was going to be a lot of events that would only be occurring one more time this year? Yeah, this is one of the last ones. Now, of course, we still technically did have a proper color scheme for this party, being pink for some freaking reason. And I think the coffee shop can explain itself. Literally, look at this! Overall, though, this was probably one of the coolest Camp Islands I ever did. And honestly, that was probably the coolest way to send off Camp Island for a good while. And with that said, the lodge was a custom design based off of Legos Camp Island 2019. The blacksmith shop had a custom design based off of Camp Island 2020. The two small mountains had a custom design based off of Camp Island 2021. And the second one had a custom design based off of Camp Island 2022. And the Pet Cemetery Mountain had a custom design based off of Camp Island 2018, the original Camp Island. And the village was just a combination of all of them together, including the 5th anniversary decorations. With all that said, that is it for the event. On November 17th, 2023, it was the 5-year anniversary of the Jungle Temple, and it only lasted one day. This anniversary party was a retelling of the original Adventure Party in 2018, minus, of course, Evil Sheet Leader. Basically, it's what the original Jungle Temple would look like exactly 5 years after it was introduced. Just to clarify. And we even had all the anniversary hats from the previous years locked away to contain their rarity in the temple. This was honestly so cool though, as it basically showed us the jungle temple just straight up being abandoned. That's literally what this felt like. And it was actually really freaking cool. Yeah, even down there, the hole that was down there was even lit up. And that's actually really it. And it was a great way to send off this anniversary once and for all. Very similarly to the Jungle Temple anniversary, the other side of the island 5th anniversary could also suffer the same fate. And it was also meant to show the other side of the island what it would look like 5 years later. Yeah, that's really all that needs to be said about this party. Basically, what would the other side of the island look like 5 years later, or just straight up just abandoned in general? That's literally what it would look like. And it honestly came out pretty well. And if I haven't mentioned it already, this was November 18th, 2023. Next up was the Thanksgiving mini event of 2023. It started on November 23rd and ended on the 25th. This obviously celebrated Thanksgiving, and the event this time around was held in the village, as we can clearly see here. Honestly, this had to be one of the most decked out events for Thanksgiving, if I had to be quite honest, because it was more than just one room. Actually, I think it was one of the first ones to be more than just one room since 2020 and 2018 respectively. There were many items given out, such as a hat and a banner. And I think also the turkey and pumpkin pie, alongside I think a pumpkin as well. So there were a lot of items given out during this, despite it only being a 2-day event. There's not much really to say about this event outside of basically the entire village was updated for this party, which was actually really freaking cool. And honestly, it came out really nice. Outside of that, there's not much to say. Overall, that's really it for this event. There were a lot of items and a lot of decorated rooms. Not much else to say here. I don't even know where I'm playing the 2024 event, because it's being held at the latest time of the year, November 28th. Thank you, leap year! That's actually kind of annoying. Now it's time for the main November event, being the Best Party Awards. It started on November 25th and ended on December 5th. The island was centered at night for an incredible awards show, where the entire island was decorated like an awards show. And it shows! During this party, you were able to vote for your favorite event on LEGO's Island from each respective year. Obviously, except for 2023, since, of course, that was the year this event was being held. And these were the following that you could vote for, which was pretty freaking cool. Oh yeah, I got my skin back for a few days around this time, ironically the day that I was making this party. Unfortunately, it only lasted for 4 days, unfortunately. And I haven't gotten it back since! And to clarify, it only appeared out of nowhere that day when I was making this event. Yeah, overall, yeah, you were able to vote for your favorite event across each year, which was actually really freaking awesome. We even got Rose Crystal to join in for a few minutes right at the end of the video, just for the sake of why the frick not. And the cave was all decorated for an awards show, as this was where the awards show was held. Speaking of the awards show, Operation Blackout ended up winning 3rd place on December 2nd, which was actually a last minute vote considering we did not have a 3rd place winner. You can thank me for that one, and also days 2 through 4 of the advent calendar were actually the awards. LEGO's Island Summer 2021 won 2nd place on December 3rd. And lastly, Operation LEGO's Island 2019 ended up winning 1st place. With all that said, that's it for the event. Now, the day after the Best Party Award started was the HQ 4th anniversary. It only lasted the one day of November 26th. The HQ was decorated like usual. And, well, it had a ton of number 4s made out of verdant frog lights all over the room with a ton of really cool banners and obviously a hat to celebrate, and with cakes all over the place. There's really not much else to say about it, so let's move on. But the banner did look pretty cool though, and alongside the hat, I'll admit that. Our second to last event of the year would be Operation Freeze 2023. It started on December 11th and ended on the 16th. This would be our first ever December operation. Master Evil Oinkers froze 5 areas across the island, and we would need to save them to access various advent calendar doors related to the days the event was ongoing. This honestly was a lot more fun than the original Operation Freeze in 2020, if I had to be completely honest. One of the things I may have done a little differently was try and use some lights to melt the ice. The problem is that only really happened in the first mission, so that didn't last long. I mainly just still used the pickaxe like I did back in the original. And for the battle, Master Evil Oinkers made the floor made out of ice to make it very slippery for when we battle. This was located at the Buffalo House backyard. So that can probably explain why. And plus also, it was a very open area at the time. What we did though was use one of our previous advent calendar items, being the snow golem, and sent snowballs against Master Evil Oinkers, ultimately defeating him. But that wasn't all, because he apparently froze the roof of the house as well, making it even harder to get up to him. But we did eventually get up to him, even though we had to trap him. Either way, we put an end to his evil plans of melting the island or freezing the island, and all was saved just in time for LEGO's Island Christmas 2023, the final event of the year. It started on December 20th and ended on the 31st. This was actually very cool, and also, just to clarify, was a lot smaller compared to the year prior, as not the entirety of the island was decorated this time around. Basically everywhere was updated, but there were certain areas that just were not updated this time around. But that was completely fine, considering, well, we already went all out the year prior. This time we are thankfully back to all new designs, and this theme was a Christmas lit-up themed village, a lit-up themed Christmas village, with a little train going across the island, which was honestly super freaking cool. And yeah, there was even a little slide here for some reason, even though I don't know why. I just felt like implementing one for some reason. Regardless, this was such a freaking cool party, as you could clearly see. And any room that ended up being frozen during Operation Freeze 2023 ended up being a blue Christmas themed room with some ice left over from the event, which honestly was so freaking cool. Oh, and just to clarify, all of this ice has now been cleaned up, by the way. All of the ice from Operation Freeze is legitimately gone now. I went on the island on January 5th and cleaned everything up, so and the entire island's normal now. All of this ice is gone, just to clarify. I just wanted to make myself clear real quick. Because if you don't know, it did end up getting left up for the New Year's party, but guys, just to clarify, it is all cleaned up now. Everything's back to normal. But outside of that, it was basically a traditional Christmas party, which was freaking awesome. And a whole lot of freaking garland at that. This was honestly so cool, and we had a bit of a peppermint theme with some of the candy canes, if not almost all of them. And well, the subways can definitely explain that. Did I mention there's lit up trees everywhere? Oh yeah, and the village was also a bit frozen. Even though it wasn't frozen during Operation Freeze, I later did explain in this video that it was originally supposed to be for Operation Freeze, but was later denied because we wanted to do some different rooms. But I still kept the original spirit of it alive though, which was pretty cool. The advent calendar returned like usual, with one item every day for 25 days, hence why there were some locked advent calendar doors during Operation Freeze, as this was going on at the same time as the advent calendar. All the items were new and were incredible. With all of that being said, that wraps up this Saturday Stories, and arguably is actually the shortest LEGO's Island Saturday Stories outside of 2018 and 2017. Holy frick! It's finally not 2 hours for once! Hooray! Finally! Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next Saturday Stories on January 13th, for where we take a look at all the Zolas Lab events across Zolas Lab 2 and 3 in 2023. Just 2 days shy of the Zolas Lab 9th anniversary. With all of that being said, I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye!